Okay. Okay. Finally, you have Jenny with me. Jenny, we've been trying to do this for 2 weeks now.
I know it's been such a crazy 2 weeks for both of us. I'm so glad we're back together talking. It was so great last time. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, no, and I plan on continuing this. So
Yeah.
I know you said this is your busy time, or it's really
Hmm.
busy. And
It
then
is.
so Jenny's on TikTok and you're on Facebook. What are your
Yeah.
handles there? Just we'll get that out there. I'll put it below too.
Yes, and my stand store would be good too because that's where all my freebie links and everything are that people and contact
Great.
forms to reach me. Isn't that sad? I have to look this up. My handle is at Jen K 1120, and it's senior living expert is like the title. And then
Okay.
Facebook is my name, Jenny Canderas. I'll send you the link. I could type it in, and then
Yep.
I'll do the stand store too. So yeah,
Okay. And I'll put all that below because
cool.
you give tips every day and talk about all this stuff. And so yesterday, I wrote you, I said, let's talk about that. So what were you saying yesterday on your TikTok?
So the one you commented on, oh, so I know I had to go back and think because I was like, which one was that? So, yes, well, a couple of things. Number one, yes, to your point, this is my busiest time of year, Q1. And it's historically because families are so scattered all over the country and they'll come home during the holidays and maybe notice a decline in their loved ones. So then, boom, it's like Q1, we're off and running. So that is why, I'm so busy. And occupancy is a challenge sometimes to find a good community at this time of year. But that particular video, I was talking about this. I always talk about the silver tsunami, right? That's what it's called. And basically, it's the
Uh-oh, you're
influx
stuck.
of elderly population. Oh
I
no!
know.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. It's
I
it's
swear.
my
I'm
hotspot.
on
I
like
have
the
a hotspot. We both had, and you were
okay.
having trouble with your Wi-Fi before, so sorry guys if
I'm just gonna not, maybe I'll just like try to not move.
here, I'm gonna try and move close to I don't know what. Okay, go ahead.
We're a mess, the two of us. Okay.
We are,
Can you
yeah.
hear me? Okay.
That's okay though. I like being messy.
We're
Okay,
human,
go ahead.
right?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So we're human. It's okay. So yes, so the silver tsunami is coming. That's what it's called. And basically it's an influx of the generation that's going to need care. And we're going to be finding a massive shortage of not only facilities, but caregivers. And so the next, well, actually starting in really 2025 is like going to be the peak. And then it's just going to get worse from there. Yeah. So it's coming soon. It's, the ratio of what we have available now for caregivers to patients is going to
Yes.
drastically decrease. So it's scary. And it's just another reason we need to be looking ahead and doing everything we can to prepare.
Right. Keep talking. I'm just like getting
Oh,
myself
you're
set
good. Yeah,
here.
I know if there's a better, or maybe I can even
There
chime
we
in
go.
again.
No, I'm good now. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Uh well, I thought it was already bad and it's going to get worse. And I know you were talking about with that then the cost is going to go up. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know. Well, and this, I keep thinking this too, because, and I will say this, I have seen a jump, especially this year with cost for senior living facilities. And I know, like we talked about before, even when you were looking, it was like sticker shock. And I think that because what's happening is people were not moving because of the pandemic. They were isolated, they were at home, they were rightly so afraid to move into a community, being away from their family, everything that we had going on. So now we are seeing those occupancy rates sort of return to what they were pre-pandemic. So now that the buildings are full, rates are jumping up. It's the demand is there. So, and it's cost of living. I mean, inflation, everything that we go through is affecting even senior living communities. So again, it's just really all about planning because it's not going to get any easier.
So if you were in the situation right now, like let's say you knew like this was coming for your loved one,
Mm-hmm.
what would be like where would you start in this planning phase?
Yeah, and we've just did this with my grandmother. And she's 96 and I always post about her. She's so cute. But my mom and I both work in healthcare, but we made sure that we just moved my grandma, and she's fine. But the first thing I always tell everybody, you have to get your affairs in order. I don't care if you're 30, I don't care if you're 80. Make sure you have a will. I have a will. I've shared with you, and I'm like you, I'm a single mom. Like, God
Yep.
forbid something happens to me. Like, I don't want my
Yep.
children to be homeless. So it's good
Yep.
just to have a will, and power of attorney, decided.
Yep.
You don't want anything tied up in probate if you can help it. So will, power of attorney, get that all documented. The other thing is, if you have a loved one, a lot of times I'm finding that, there'll be like random assets all over. So they'll be like, this bank account has a little bit of money and this life insurance policy has a little bit. So you have to like sort of start gathering all that in one place, and whoever's going to be in charge of that, get it all together. If you do have an asset like a house, you need to protect that.
Yeah.
So Medicare, or I'm sorry, Medicaid, Medicare, even like veterans benefits that are available, they all do a 5-year look back. So if it's, if you have that 5-year period, go to an attorney if you can, put the house, any of the assets in a trust, just to help with protecting those assets when you're spending down your money, in assisted living or in a nursing facility.
Right.
So really you need to have your affairs in order is the first thing.
Well, and that's why it's good talking to Ron too, the estate
Yes.
planning attorney and stuff, because they go together.
Yes.
And, after working in Leafield, like you said, we're single moms, that I know when Jesse, like I said, she was young, like 10 or something like that. I was like, I need a will for myself. And what's funny
Right.
is her dad owned a business and was very wealthy, and he didn't even have a will. And I think
People don't
people,
think about it.
no, they just assume that, I don't know, either they're never going to die or they'll get to it,
Right. Because we
and the
don't want
whole,
to think about it. We don't want to think about
right,
it.
right. And, but the worst thing to do for anyone in your family is to leave these things hanging. And if you die intestate, again, it just makes the process
Ugh,
that much more complicated.
so complicated. And it's so interesting right now because our parents and grandparents, and because it's like our generation going through it with our parents and our grandparents, and what everybody says to me, and to your point, it's like, oh my gosh, now that I know what this entails, I will never do this to my children. So
Right,
it's like we are the generation that is really learning from this. We are the
right.
ones that are cleaning out the houses, and because again, you have a lot of depression era,
Yep.
um, seniors, and they, I mean, there's all different scenarios, but very different times. And they're like, yeah, I will never do this. I will never put this angst on my children. So in a way, it's kind of a good process. We're just the guinea pigs.
Well, just think, my daughter won't have to do anything. I have a van.
Exactly. My kids are set. So is your daughter. We're good.
She doesn't have much to go through. Yeah, she could have my t-shirts or my very fancy like Hawaiian shirt. I dressed
She just wants the van. Come on.
I dressed up today. Actually, she
I love
doesn't.
it.
You know what's so funny?
Really?
I've offered it for them to go, and she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I don't think so. So again, it's just who,
Really?
that just
You
isn't
should
what,
rent it out. Do you ever rent it out? I would bet people would do that.
well, I
So,
would, but I live in it.
well, when I know this is true, but even at home in Minnesota, you're not. I mean, when you're in Minnesota, though,
And the thing is too, just talking about like preparing and stuff like, and not
right,
knowing. So, I thought about that, but here's the thing, you have to think about insurance, and you have other people driving your van that don't drive like you do or
right, good
don't take
point.
care of the stuff that you
Heck,
know.
Charlene. Yeah,
So yeah, poor Charlene. Yeah. So I would actually be kind of afraid. Again, I looked into it or like thought about it, and then I thought, you know what? It's too much to think about. And I think
I
again,
agree.
we talk about
That's a good
like,
point.
okay, it's too much for me to think about Charlene, but it's not too much for you, for your loved ones to think about now. It doesn't matter like what age you are right now. You can be
Right.
30, you can be 35, you can be whatever. Like, in my family, like I've seen, people
Yeah.
know my sister passed away at
Oh,
42,
so young.
my brother at 60, my sister at had strokes at 61. She didn't have
Mm,
anything in place, but she
right.
didn't have anything either to really have to deal with. But it's never too early. And I think about it, listen, I worked in family law, And it's kind of like a prenup. People think if you talk about it,
Yes,
that
that's
it's
a great
kind
way
of
to put it.
dooming the relationship. Listen, it's all about communication and just getting things set because we all think we're gonna be married forever,
Of course.
you know,
Well,
and we
guess
know it
what?
doesn't always work out like that. Yeah,
Oops,
exactly.
yeah.
And
But I
it's
think
not
that's a
just
great example.
right, and it's not just for, it's not about love. Like I say,
Right.
a lot, when you think about business or like quitting, or I've talked about this with my thing,
Hmm.
it's business. Like there's thing that it's not a pie in the sky. It's not about like
Yes.
feelings. It's about taking care of business so that everybody's protected.
And at the end of the day, what better way to show your love and appreciation to
Right,
know that people are protected and taken care of?
right.
So I
And
love that you just said that.
I can tell you, you have a better relationship if you are the type of people
Ugh,
who can sit down and talk about this kind
yes,
of stuff. Because if you
you've probably
can't,
seen it all.
if you get offended or if you get mad, and listen, I am the type, like, I don't want your money. You just want what's fair.
Exactly.
And listen, when you get divorced, people think, oh, yeah, I want alimony, I want child support, I want this. But they don't realize even if you haven't worked, you still have a value to yourself where you can
That's
go out
right.
and work. You know what I
That's
mean?
right. People don't think
And
about these things.
yeah, you just don't. And so anything that is going to make it easier if or when the time comes
Right.
is it's just helpful in being prepared.
So much so because anybody, and you and I can attest to this in both scenarios here. If you're in the midst of a nasty divorce, or if you're in the midst of taking care of an elderly loved one and trying to figure it out, both scenarios are like a whirlwind and just so draining and so hard to get through. And those are the times you wish you had something.
Right. And then you're like, well, why didn't you already aren't talking? Then you're really not talking to the person.
Exactly. And right, exactly. And then especially with your, aging loved ones, if they have dementia or something, it's just 100 times worse because depending on the stage of the dementia they're at, there's no reasoning. I guess that's
Right.
true in a divorce too sometimes, but it's even harder then.
Right. And so I know, like, you're talking about like dealing with somebody who maybe doesn't think they're ready,
Yes.
but
Oh my gosh. Yes.
being part of the family, do you know what I mean? Like there's something of being independent, but there's something about where it just can't be taken care of other than in a place.
There's a very fine line. And this is why like everybody's scenario is so different. And
Yeah.
sometimes people will get mad at me on TikTok and because I'm like, I try not to give blanket statements because I'm like, if you guys have questions like about senior living and call me because everybody's scenario is different. Everybody's care, logistics, finances, everything is different. But to your point, yes, there are times I want people to feel as independent as possible. And going into a community doesn't mean they'll lose their independence. It's sort of like an apartment, and then there's help when you need it.
Right.
And honestly, the earlier you go in, you set yourself up, believe it or not, financially in a better position and then clinically in a better position versus I work with families every day that are so guilt ridden. They're like, oh, mom can't leave her house. She doesn't want to leave. I'm like, well, how many rooms in her house is she actually using? They're like, well,
Right.
two. I'm like,
Right.
okay. And I understand that the memories, I get it. But what's her quality of life like? And this happens all the time. People will be like, oh, Jenny, I should have listened. Mom fell. Now she has a broken hip. Now your choices are limited. You're going to, it's just a very slippery slope.
Okay, so speaking of that, like when you talk on TikTok and stuff like that, so a lot of people didn't know there was somebody like you. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
tell me what you do.
So I'm a senior living placement specialist. I own my own company. And I think I shared this before, but the reason I started my company, it's been almost 6 years, is because I've worked in this industry for 20 plus years. And when I was in a senior living community, I would see there's like national companies that do what I do. And I would see the referrals come through to me. And I would think, wow, they are not pre-qualifying these families, and they're left more confused. And they
Mm-hmm.
weren't appropriate for my particular community. And I would still help them because I was like, these poor families, they're not getting the guidance they need. And I thought, how do people sleep at night? Don't refer somebody to me that is going to run out of money in 6 months. And my facility was a private pay indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do, my services are no cost to families because I am contracted with senior living communities, and I have national partnerships, even though I'm based out of Cleveland, Ohio. So I can help anyone anywhere. And and again, I always stress that just because I have a contract with somebody does not mean I will work with them. I'm very particular about the communities that I work with. I stay on top of them well after move-in. Things can change, management, things like that.
Right.
So, but what I do is I speak to a family, find out what they need, basically everything I mentioned before, what the finances look like, what the situation is, even to their likes, dislikes, everything. And then I narrowed down several options based on their criteria. And then I do like a comparison guide. I help them, with ancillary services if they need home health care, hospice, anything like that, veterans benefits, resources. And then my local clients, we will go and tour the communities together. And then once they make a decision, I help them through that process, whatever they may need. If it's downsizing help, anything, you know, act as a therapist, if you will, sometimes with that whole
Yeah.
transition and then beyond. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have a person like myself who knows the ins and the outs. And a
Right.
lot of times too, people confuse things like nursing homes and assisted living. And, there's big differences, not only aesthetically, but regulation wise. And they just use everything interchangeably, completely understandably. But, I'm there to really decipher and help everybody through it.
Well, and who knew, for some reason it seemed a lot simpler a long time ago,
Oh my gosh, right.
you know, but now, like I said, with like even Ron with the estate planning, I work in the legal field. I don't know the, probate,
Yeah,
the estate planning,
right.
legal stuff. And even I'm confused.
And it's
And
ever changing.
in
Yeah,
in a lot of times, like we said, it's it's always like it's not something that a lot of people have prepared for. All of a sudden you're thrust into it, and a lot of time it's on a limited time, like, okay, mom
right.
needs to get in. And a lot of times there's a wait list or something like
Yes.
that. As you said,
There's
it's becoming.
a lot of families in crisis. They will wait till a crisis to call me. And then I can pull off a lot of miracles really quick, but it's a lot more stress for the family,
Right.
and I don't want that for them.
And somebody actually had said in the last video, had commented that I think they were out of state, and the person
Mhm.
that they were looking, to get into a facility, that how do you manage that if you're not in the same state?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I still have like a form, like an intake form they can fill out, and then we schedule a time to talk. Um, and then I've also got, I know you've probably seen Natalie, who does a lot with me. She's on the West Coast. We work together in tandem because we just have the same values and philosophies. So what we do is I will talk to them on the phone, and I will still act like they're the same thing I would do for my local clients, find out every piece of information I can. Um, you know, really just get a good sense of what's going on. And then depending on where they live, I have trusted contacts probably all over the country. And again, very particular about who I work with too, but that they need somebody boots on the ground local to where they're at. So then I
Right.
will work with their local person and themselves. And together we are able to, come up with a solution. So they have kind of a local and myself.
Well, in like I said, I didn't even know there were people like you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something that you search for, or how do, like, are there a lot of people like you out there?
Yes, there are. And here's, I'm so glad you brought that up actually, because that's something that I want to say. So we all Google, I do it myself all the time. So typically if people are like, oh, I need a senior living community, they're just going to Google, whatever. I always caution people, be very careful. What happens if you put your name in anywhere?
Oh
You
yeah.
are unknowingly swept up into this
Oh,
national database. You've
yep.
been there. And then
Yep.
you're like spammed with a million calls, and they're
Oh,
not even the appropriate communities for you. And you're like,
right.
who are you? They're calling from, they don't even know the places that they're referring you. So a local one is going to be best, or someone like myself that can, connect. So yes, someone like myself, please reach out. I will connect you. Look for if somebody can always look for a local placement agency service. There are franchises and there are non-franchises that are local. I chose to be a non-franchise one. At the time when I started my business, being a single mom, I couldn't have afforded a franchise, but I'm glad I didn't, because I
Right.
wanted the freedom to be able to expand, or, I didn't want any hierarchy, telling me, well, you can't do this with your
Yep.
residents, or, I want to give that red carpet service and not be restricted.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because yeah, when you're in a franchise, listen, I used to run med spas, and when we were in a franchise,
Right.
you have to do specifically what they say, or you
Yeah.
could get kicked out of the franchise and you have to pay fees to be
That's
part of the
crazy. I
franchise.
know.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what work may work in one market may not work in another market, but you're
Right.
obligated to do that anyway. So,
Yes. And I did. I put my name in. What was I? Oh, even just my mom recently. So I was looking for a new what do you call it? Like a medical alert.
uh-huh.
And honestly, it kind of pissed me off because I put
Yeah.
my name in, to just get information. And all of a sudden they're calling me. There was this one guy,
Wow.
Huey, would call, and this was like around Christmas time. It was during the holidays. He
Oh
called
my
me on
gosh.
Christmas Eve 3 times, on Christmas Day, and it
Okay,
PO'd
now
me.
I didn't know that. See, I'm glad you told me that, because that is new information to even me. I did not know like companies were doing that now, where you're going to get hounded. That's crazy.
Well, and
That is
that's what I
not
mean.
helping anybody.
Well, and you're already overwhelmed. And listen,
Right.
I wanted to call him back and say, Huey, you're not getting the sale now because
Leave me
now
alone.
you're being annoying.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Wow. I am
And
going to have to make a video about that. Thank you. I did not know that.
yeah. And there are so many out there. And listen, I like to research. I'm a paralegal, So
Right.
I was checking out different ones, and it was a little confusing because then, okay, you buy this, but then it's like, oh, add on the no fall and add on this. So
Right.
it goes from $30 to like $90 a
Exactly.
month. And, first of all, you think, oh, this is, not that expensive because it's your, loved one's life that you're dealing with,
Right.
because nobody can be around all the time. So, if they're not
Exactly.
necessary, and that's the thing, what can you do before you can get them
Yes.
into this? And that's the thing, my mom, Joy, is still well with it, um, she just needs help. Like I said, it's just that now, with her macular degeneration and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's
Absolutely.
more about
Absolutely.
like seeing things, and she loves to take walks. And this
Oh.
goes like 3 football fields. And I'm like, okay. And honestly, like they kept calling, but I was still doing research because I was confused. Like
Well,
what would,
right.
you
Oh
know?
gosh, that's
And
horrible.
so I think but like we were talking about, and I think it's like even in the legal field or anything else with a will, if you don't have one, please start thinking of
Yes.
one.
Please,
And
please. It's not that
please
expensive. It's worth
start
it.
talking to your family, your parent, your, whoever, what they want. I already know what my mom
Yes.
wants as far as like when she passes, she wants to be
I love that.
cremated. She wants her
Yeah.
ashes, you know what I mean? And
Good for you.
and it saves the trouble, like you said before, it's too late. And then
Exactly.
they get their wishes done, what they want.
Absolutely. And then they feel like they're part of that buy-in process, whether it be assisted living, whether it be their wishes being executed, whatever it is, they're part of it. And it
They're in
helps with
control.
that. And absolutely, because that's what it's about. They don't want to lose control. They don't want to lose independence. You're 1000% correct. And it's really important. And it's funny, they always say, what's that saying? The worst in people come out during weddings and funerals. Well, I think
Yes,
it's also during like crises like this too,
right.
because you really
Oh,
see a lot of things.
and that's for sure, and I have found like greed in my family. And it's sad because I don't really have a family anymore, but had all
We're
this.
your family. Your whole community is your family. We
Right,
all love you.
exactly. No, I have a better I have people
I
that
know what you
actually
mean.
love me and like me.
We do.
But and that's the thing. Had this, and had my dad been around, listen, my dad, was so nice,
Yeah.
and he'd be turning over in his grave. Do you know what I mean? And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Some things you can't, but do the most you can do.
Yes.
And it's not scary. Once you start talking, my mom and I can talk about anything.
I
And
love
I
that.
know a lot of people don't have that relationship.
Yeah.
Some older people are ornery, or you know what I mean, or you're not the type of person that can communicate like that.
Right.
It's just not on them, it's on
Right.
you. But then maybe you get someone. Is there anybody in the like your community
Hmm.
that does that, that helps before you get into that, or would that be like the
I
estate
I mean
planning?
I always do. I always if a lot of times people call me, they're not ready for assisted living. There's, to your point, like I just don't know what to do yet. I need to start. And
Right.
so I will always advise them, or I refer like elder law attorneys, or at least guide them. Maybe it's getting home health set up. Maybe it's maybe it's just counseling a little bit, if you will, just to be the mediator, or at least be like, hey, because the reactions are always going to be different. I tell everybody this: your loved one is like going to be on their best church behavior for an elder law attorney, or someone like myself,
Right.
for
Yes,
for their
exactly.
family.
Right.
You're going to get all the crap. You really
Yeah.
are. So that's why. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
So it
what I'm
helps having.
saying. Like, like when you have a mediator, if two people don't get along, coming from the legal field, you have a
Right.
mediator
Exactly.
that, can kind of play, the referee. And
Absolutely.
but sometimes, like people do not want to hear that they have to go into, assisted living,
Yes.
or it's time to go. And again, I get that. It's like you feel like you're letting go of control. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Absolutely.
even though you may be well, with it and stuff like that. And it's interesting because, my mom is so young, you know,
Yes.
she's a young
Yes.
94.
Yes. I know. My grandma's 96, very young 96. So I get it. And we're seeing
Yeah.
more and more of that now.
Well, when my dad first died, she was looking at like places like 55 plus, and she said, they're all old people there.
I knew you were gonna say that. It's so funny. My grandma says that. I'm like, hello, but
Right.
I guess that's a good thing. That's a good thing that they think of themselves as young, and and they are young.
Well,
So
and I think you think, like I know too, if you, and there's nothing wrong with those places, but if you don't see yourself there, because here's the thing,
yes,
it's a mental thing too. Like you don't
totally.
want to be put somewhere where you feel like you still have, things to do, like you go for walks and stuff like that.
Right.
Uh, what was I gonna say? That like now with my mom, when I was looking at getting her into the assisted living home with my sister,
Hmm.
like she came to this point where she was actually excited about it,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
and again, but the more you talk about it, and then we went, she already knows what it looks like. It's beautiful. She knows the people that work there, they're amazing.
Yes.
And it's not a bad gig.
Well, and that's just it, because and again, I think a lot of it goes back to, you know, this generation thinks about what we didn't have assisted livings back then. Their
Right,
parents and grandparents were very institute like
right. Yes,
places. So
yes,
of course that's the preconceived notion,
right.
not realizing, like you said, they're beautiful places. I went to one community the other day. I was like, okay, I'm not 55 yet, but I'm coming. Like I want my, sir, I want my lawn care, my taxes. Like I want my meals prep. You can drive, you can leave, you can even if you don't drive and you're a resident in an assisted living community, you can come and go as you please with your
Right.
family or by yourself. So it's not
Yep.
like prison.
Yep.
So I think that's just part of it, the misconception.
Well, and the 55 plus, listen, I could live in my mom's place. I'm 58.
Right, right.
She was like,
I
Tracy, when I go,
you
you can have
you
my
look so young.
apartment. I go, Mom, I don't think that's how it works, because there's like a long list. I don't think you can like leave it to somebody, but there's a long list
I
of
love that
people.
she thought of that though. She's so
There's
cute.
a long list of people trying to get in there. But I thought, this isn't a bad gig. It's
I
beautiful.
know.
And
You do
there's a
not look
lot of nice,
58,
they
by
have
the way.
bingo. They have
I
something
know.
going on every night. It's
You
funny.
do
I
not
don't
look
know if I, so
58.
here's a story, and hopefully my mom laughs anyway. But just last summer, my friend Al was driving. He was helping with a door or something at my mom's, and they get along really well. Actually, what's beautiful, talking about family, since I've been gone, Al takes Joy out to dinner. They just went out to dinner
Oh,
on Wednesday night,
I
and
love that.
he's like, it's so fun to talk to her, and people don't realize, like,
Oh my gosh. I could sit and listen to a senior all day long. The history, the stories, they're funny. People assume they don't have a sense of humor or they don't do anything fun. They're
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
Hilarious.
They were out for 2.5 hours. He goes, yeah, we just talked and talked. And I'm like, well, Joy has a new boyfriend now. Well, because she was walking. And again, this is the mindset at 94. And that's what keeps Joy so young and so
Yes.
vibrant. It's a mindset. She was, taking her walk, and Al was driving by, and he's like, oh, Joy out, picking up guys. And she goes, oh, they're all too old.
Oh my gosh. I love her.
you know, and so I think people are missing both. Like you said, it's a
Yes.
misconception because back in the day, it's not like how it was. Like you said, it was
Not
more
at all.
institutionalized. And now,
Yes.
now my mom she has a friend in the building, Dolores, who comes to visit her every single night.
Yes.
And they'll sit and have coffee and
Yes. They make friends. True story. My grandfather who has passed away, he was married to my grandma for like, I want to say like 50 years, maybe 60 years. So anyway, in his 90s, he was still in, I'm sorry, his second wife was in her 90s. He was still in his 80s. Met her in independent living. And it
oh,
was like, and they
yeah.
got married and it was like a big ordeal. Everybody knew. I was like, oh my gosh, they're human. People still
So
want
I'm
love.
going to tell you something too. So, and here's another thing that okay, I'm going to tell this story. So when I worked at Walgreens, we have like a pretty new facility next to us, senior
Hmm.
living,
Hmm.
and a woman came over, and she had this younger guy. He was just a husband of a friend, but he took her to Walgreens, to do some
Oh,
shopping. And he's like, he comes up to me like all embarrassed, and he's like, maybe
oh,
you can help her. And then he steps away. She was
oh,
she was looking for some
like
I don't know if I can
incontinence.
say, no,
Oh,
personal, some lube.
oh, I love that. They're human.
And that's what
I,
she said. And so here's the
I've
thing.
actually,
I'm like, and I took her seriously. I go, listen, I get it. I go, no, because
I get it.
she had started dating this guy. And then so I'm like, oh, do you like this or do you like
I,
this? So we're
you made
talking.
her day.
And then, but she came back like a couple weeks later, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? And then she said that the guy that she's like seeing in the assisted living home had ghosted her. And I'm like,
How do you ghost when you live in the same place?
and it never changes. Dating
Oh
never.
my gosh. It
So
doesn't.
just
You're right
know.
though.
And then you're in a senior living home and you're in a small place, like you said. And then,
Right.
so I think he
Oh,
was like the Romeo of the assisted living home.
oh my gosh.
Because
That is
they
hilarious.
say women live longer than men, so I'm sure there was slim pickings for the
I was
women.
just gonna say, you see a man, it's like the ladies are all like clamoring for him. I love that.
So I was like, "Oh my God, you're like 85 and can meet somebody. I'm 58 and I can't."
Right. We do you know what? We girlfriends of like I have girlfriends like all of us that work in the industry were like, yeah, well just 55 and older, that's where everybody's going. It's like
Maybe that's where I need to head after I'm done with the van. I'm going to the 55 plus. Maybe I'll live with Joy. We'll go
there
on the
you go.
prowl
You
together.
should just go. She's ready for you. I know. I'm telling you, I am ready for it. I'm like, no taxes, no yard work, no
Yeah,
maintenance. I'm like,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
So I know.
Living your best life.
I'm
Um,
telling you, they are. They are. They love it.
yeah. No, and like I said, now and now that we know, it's interesting because now after knowing what's out there, and like I said, knowledge is
Yeah.
power. Now I know,
Yes.
like, it's not sticker shock, and I was trying to like get it done before I left, which I
Right.
could have, but I took a step back, got a
Yeah.
PCA, and this
That's
has
awesome.
worked out better than
Yes.
anything.
And a lot of times I mean, again, everybody's scenario is different. It's working because your mom, again, is still,
Independent, yeah.
yes. So great. Just someone to oversee for
Right.
whatever needs. That's
And again,
fine.
now she knows, but now she's not afraid to go there, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like like that, oh, okay, well, this is a nice place. And,
And that's a really good point. And because, like you said, your mom saw, because of your sister. And I
right,
think that's why a lot of times too, I'll encourage, my clients, like for their loved ones, I'm like, let's bring them to lunch at the community one day,
right,
or let's
yep,
have them join an outing there or a
right.
happy hour just to go and see, just to sort of feel it out.
And it's so funny. I just had this conversation with my daughter. So my daughter's 22
Mhm.
and they moved back. She went to college in Tacoma,
Yeah.
and you have all your college friends, and she was on the
Yeah.
rowing team, and her girlfriend moved back here, and she's like, "Yeah, we never get out. We're trying to make new friends." Do you know what I mean? I go, Jesse, here's the thing. It's not it's not you just being 22. It's anybody. Once you get a
It's
full-time
anybody.
job, once you get a
Yes.
full-time job and you're working and you have your weekends just to go grocery shopping and do your stuff,
Laundry. Exactly.
I mean, where are
That's
you going to
life.
meet? It's not
I know.
easy. Talk about dating. It's not easy just to even meet new friends
It's
unless you're on YouTube and then you meet lots of
exact. I'm telling you, like, thank God for like during the pandemic was really when I embraced even like TikTok. And at the
yeah,
time it was like my kids were on it. I was like, what is this?
I
And I'm like,
know.
I was almost like
I
embarrassed to tell
know.
people. But I'm telling you, it's like, and probably you too, like this is when we all embrace it. And I have met even just Facebook people either in my industry or people that
Yeah.
I have become such good friends with all around the country
Well, look at
that I
us.
never would have met. Exactly.
We met
I'm
on
like,
TikTok.
we're like kindred souls, It's like,
Yeah. Well, but what I'm saying too, so she's telling me this, and then there's my mom who's in a 55 plus, and they have like bingo nights. They go out to dinner. They have a bus come pick them up, and they like go
they'll
to
go out
different.
more than me,
Oh yeah, that's what and you're
way
all
more.
in the same place. Do you know what I mean? Like all
Yes,
you have to do is walk downstairs, and if you don't want to go, you don't have to. But every morning
exactly.
they have coffee, so you can just go have coffee and donuts and just talk if you
Yeah.
want to.
And
And
if not,
so
fine.
it's more conducive to making friends than it
So
is
much more.
when you're younger. And
And they have,
you
yeah,
have
oh,
the
I'm sorry, go
time,
ahead.
you have the time to do it. Finally.
Exactly. And a lot of right. A lot of communities they do where my grandma just moved to too, like a resident ambassador or a community ambassador. And
Ooh,
it's just another way of making people, feel important. And I could totally see your mom doing that because, with everything
do they get
I
a
know about
crown?
her.
I'm the
Exactly, like
ambassador
a
and they
badge
walk
or a
around.
sash,
Yeah.
like the welcoming committee. I love it. But they take their job very seriously and
Oh
they
no, yeah.
welcome the new people. They're
Oh
like, listen,
yeah.
I'm here for you. And even though
Yeah.
the communities, do a good job of pairing
Right.
you up at your table with like-minded people and things like that. It's
Right.
still nice because my grandma knows she can call her
Right.
ambassador if she wants, and she's
Right.
met all she knows
Well,
everybody. She knows their
and
dogs' names.
and for a family member, especially someone who travels, like
Yes,
I know Dolores goes there every single night. And so
isn't
there's
that so
somebody
nice?
checking on her. Do you know what I mean?
It's
And
such a source of comfort.
yes. And I know Al goes over there, and and then
Yeah,
Jessie, my daughter. And so she's built this community. And I think the crux of uh this whole talk today is taking away the fear
yes,
of, first of all, preparing for something like this. And it's never too soon. If you
no.
haven't, start. I don't care if
Look
you're
what happened
30.
in your family. You
Yeah,
you are
right,
unfortunately an example of that. I mean,
right,
you just don't know.
right. I don't care. Like I said, if you're 30, whatever, start talking. Like, what does somebody want to do? Do you want to be
Right.
cremated? Even, death, none of us are getting out alive. I mean,
You
it's just
got
the
that
truth.
right.
And it should be a normal, listen, we can talk about everything else, it seems like, except for this stuff.
You're
And
so right. It's such a taboo subject, and
yeah,
we need to it's not sexy, but we need to normalize it. My
well, it
grandmother
can
had,
be. Look at the lady in the senior
well,
home
this
that
is
came to
true. My
Walgreens.
gosh. I'm telling
People
you,
are going to be looking forward to
you
going.
know what? I'm telling you, I think it's like, people say, oh, this decade is the best. Nope. I'm convinced it's senior living decade because they're just
Yep.
happy hour every day, drinking, going
Yeah.
out, making friends. I
Yeah.
mean, it's true. But my grandma even has it too, like speaking of her wishes, what outfit she's going to be
Yeah.
wearing
Oh,
when she
yeah,
dies.
for
Her
sure.
hair. I mean,
Yeah.
fine,
Oh, yeah.
whatever you
You don't
want.
want somebody to dress you for your funeral. I'm wearing this
Right?
with a
She would
crown.
haunt us from the grave if she was not. in the
Yeah.
right attire. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it
And
doesn't
you
have to
can
be
make
scary.
it fun because then again, that person is in control of what they want when they don't have a say in it. Or do you know what I mean? Like if it's too
Exactly.
late. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like you said, it's just key to just start the communication,
Right.
find out what their wishes are, and
Right.
it's just going to alleviate so much stress down the road.
Right. And next I'm going to talk to Ron again. And
Hmm.
that's confusing, but we're going to talk more about estate planning, where
Yes.
estate planning is like this, where a lot of times you don't even need a will because if you plan for like your individual assets,
Yes.
that they're
You're right.
already, you don't even need to go to probate or whatever. It already is
Exactly.
handed over to the person. So you don't have to worry about,
Exactly. I
because
love that you have him.
we
Yeah.
all think a will is the end all be, oh, we need a will. But if you have assets,
Yeah.
there are ways to just hand them over, transfer them to people at
Yes.
the time of your death.
Yes. Which is exactly, my mom just did a trust.
Yep.
Um, I don't have a trust yet, but I probably should. But I have the will just because, like I said, I
Right.
was more
Me
worried about the
too.
kids and
Yep.
stuff. But
Working on it.
yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways, and it doesn't have to be scary. So
Right.
yeah, that's so
And I
true.
think that that's the crux of this one is like taking the fear out of talking
Yeah,
about it. And once you do, it becomes easier, just like anything else, once you open
exactly.
that gate. And I think people are relieved to talk about it.
You
Yeah.
know what? That's a really good point. They are relieved, and
Yeah.
people do tell me that a lot. They're like, you know what? Just hearing things out loud, knowing other people are going through this is very comforting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could write a book. I could just I'm sure you could with your, line of work. I mean, I have seen it all. I've seen horrible things. I've seen really good positive things. And it's some things I would never want anybody to, I mean, it just things that make you
Right.
lie awake at night, really
Yes.
bother me
I
still.
know.
So it's like
Yep.
anything to do to prevent that,
Right.
and it's true. Take away the fear. I love that. It's a great
Right.
message.
Okay. Well, this is fun. We
This
finally
was awesome.
figured it out. I'm still in the like
I know. I'm like, you poor thing, you haven't been able to move.
we tried. I thought I was smart and I was going to do it on my phone, and because I'm at the gym parking lot, and I thought, oh, I could just ride off the Wi-Fi here, but it didn't work. So we ended up on the computer anyway. But
That's okay. It was, I always love it. And we'll do it
it
again.
worked out, and yeah, however we can get it done. But Jen, I will still, we're going to continue this because there is so much, and
Yeah.
I think even other people hearing us talk about it
Yeah.
make it easier for them, and maybe we can come up with certain points to bring things up.
Yes. I'm going to take a little picture of us just talking because I'm going to put it on social
Wait,
media. Okay. But yes, I will. I know. I thought, because I want everybody to go follow you.
yep,
But yeah, I'll text you the information for below the links and all that stuff. I'll send to you.
smile, I'm taking a picture too. Oh, the
Perfect.
social media, it keeps on trucking.
Keeps on
Yeah,
trucking.
yeah. And so send me, yeah, all the links to how people can get a
Perfect.
hold of you. And I know that you have like certain things. And I was thinking too, I'm a planner. I like to
Me too.
like I'm a list maker.
Me
And
too.
yeah. And maybe we can work together about ways that people can just kind of, I'm sure you have something, but even
Yeah.
like opening conversations.
Yes.
And anybody who has questions, leave them below because
Yes,
it helps
please.
us, to generate more things to talk about that people want us
Absolutely.
to.
People
Okay.
ask great questions, and I do a
Yeah.
lot of, especially on TikTok. I just did some video responses this morning. People have great questions. So yes,
Yes. Yeah.
I love
So we'll
it.
just keep it open and keep
We'll
on
keep it
rolling.
going.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you,
thanks,
Tracy.
Jen. You have
You're
a
the
great
best. I
weekend.
just love you.
I have pole dancing at noon. So
I am so jealous. That sounds so fun. I love it. That's a lot of strength that takes. You are awesome. It's good for your
hey,
core.
maybe in the scene of the 55 plus,
I
I'll
was
go
just
put up
gonna say maybe
I'll
they'll
put
start
a
having
pole.
that there. It wouldn't even shock me. I love it. I may have to suggest that to some of them around here.
I'll teach it. I'll come back and teach it. I'll start the teachers. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you would have a line out the door. No doubt. I love it.
Oh, the ideas are rolling now.
Now I was gonna say, oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. Well,
Okay,
have
Jen,
fun.
you have a great weekend, and we'll be talking soon. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye.